A Polestar.
For all my criticisms, I am hopeful, and let that not be understated. I would not have taken the time to write all of this out if I felt otherwise. As much as it feels like we are trapped within this mind-numbing hamster wheel of bleak newscasts and mental illness and drug addiction and false political dichotomies, we could be rid of all such negativity within the span of a single generation and have it replaced with something more mindful that reflects our humanity back at us, rather than exploiting our lowest, most primitive selves. Easier said than done, sure, but I never once claimed that it would happen overnight. Lead by example, I say, rather than waiting on the close-minded empires to smile upon us. Indeed, it is better to carry on with our plans with the expectation that they will never find acceptance, with the expectation that the powers that be will not consider our propositions until we begin actively stealing their customers, so to speak, for it is not sensibility, but their own selfish security which matters mostly to them. The modern age leaves us with endless options at our disposal, and no longer are we required to stand before a forum of gargoyles who lack all ability to deviate from the standards to which they are so accustomed. It's all about the setup, and if we can only translate our drive and excitement to the people, then all else, I'm convinced, will fall into place over time. That is not to deny all of the hard work that will be required of us, but at the same time, I do not believe that it will be nearly as difficult as most are imagining. Then, once we tackle the matter of emotional intelligence and awareness among our population, we may be able to move on to confronting more complex matters and considerations, such as that of a post-monetary society, and other ideas which are completely off the table until we can work to heal our core humanity and the issues that brought us so much damage in the first place. Then will we be free to experience and explore Earth and humanity as they exist, for we will have recognized that value is innate to all things, and that our attempts to impose a secondary system of value thereupon has scrambled the very concept of worth as we know it for so very long. Within the entrepreneurial world, one who is struggling to net the desired exposure and acceptance will sometimes venture beyond their craft, their house, and buy the town, essentially becoming the gatekeeper or tastemaker so as to bypass the gates currently in place. Are you struggling to have your art accepted by mainstream channels? Instead of waiting for the reviewers to praise you or the labels to sign you or the museums to provide you with space, go on and start a label and museum and review site all on your own and reform the standard in your favor. Can't win the game? Rewrite the game. Buy out the damn town. Instead of sitting around and thinking that pulling a lever in a voting booth, which may or may not end up discounted along the way due to the very trustworthy and mature people on which our hope depends, is the be-all end-all of power that we have as a society, put in the work to become mayor, governor, president, yourself. This approach lies at the heart of our endeavor. In the days of the KHT, our members would go so far as to start up their own bars that were covertly managed by counselors and psychologists, who would then go on to provide customers with sound advice and support when at their most vulnerable and sincere, while others sought to become pastors and start their own church or home group so as to study, steer, and hopefully alleviate the hateful and ignorant attitudes at play within a given body of the population. Not that I am advocating for such a practice. Again, I know that all of these political and entrepreneurial illusions may not be the sort that naturally appeals to the types of individuals who make up my audience, when it seems infinitely more pleasant and rewarding to be applying our time and talents to something more creative and human. However, you gotta admit that these otherwise starchy careers and practices suddenly take on a different tone, seeming altogether more fascinating, feasible, and worthwhile in light of this complex effort. Yay! I like to imagine that Compra Chicos, with its modern aesthetic and strange charm, might bridge the way to this forbidden sphere. Imagine all the governments of the world filled with such as we, and it is in like manner that your own desires and perceptions have been rewritten by context, in the very way that we ourselves shall seek to shift the desires of the populace, which is done not through deception, but by shifting the context within which these definitions exist. As this text circulates among the population, I do not doubt that there will be many self-styled outsiders who will suddenly reconsider their potential, as well as their approach and their objectives, and I applaud them all with my 4 blue hands. Through our efforts may we rewrite the associations of politics and activism, and how wondrous would that be, since I find it so deeply concerning that the realm of politics has come to exist as an enterprise unto itself, utterly set apart from the humanities and approached as some business, and I can't help but feel we've drawn the line in the wrong place, creating for the most unnecessary and dangerous distinctions, and a system which is designed to attract the unscrupulous and repel the sincere. I am both fascinated and aghast to be listening to all of these empathetic individuals who understand the ins and outs of psychology, humanity, and even game theory, but then still claim that politics ain't their thing, as if being some distinct and exclusionary system in which no warmth or creativity is allowed. We already understand that the system itself is prone to corruption. That which I am addressing in this case is not the system so much as the veil of associations which is formed through misuse and oversight, preventing the population from recognizing the field of politics as relevant to themselves and their skills and knowledge. We must strongly consider these associations that we have built up over time, and if we should find that they are not serving us, then they must be torn down and offered no funeral. The centerpiece of human society cannot be a business. The centerpiece of human society cannot be a sports stadium. The centerpiece of human society, like within the human body, can only be a heart. All of this may be more complex than can be tackled by the average individual, and I won't fault you for recognizing it as ambitious, although I also wouldn't be so quick to set it beyond the reach of the determined, especially when acting as a collective. Lest you forget, Compra Chicos is not simply some angry mob, but a coming together of the most clever, creative, and empathetic minds within our population. And I have no doubt that our collective will be called home to many of the leading, most innovative minds of our generation and those that follow. The ideals expressed within this essay are neither strange nor uncommon, being written upon the hearts of all who are living. However, once again, I have yet to witness any attempts being made to fit them into an organized and active framework, and what good is an engine in the absence of a chassis, a track? I believe that we would benefit greatly from a network which attempts to structure and codify these ideals, and thereby permits greater awareness of not only our needs as a species, but also our potential, and this can help to mitigate the feelings of overwhelm by which many of us are affected, which more often result from a lack of organization than from the actual circumstances with which one is faced. So do not underestimate the weight of a collective coming together under a semi-structured banner and philosophy. For I have no doubt that there exists many an individual within the world today, many of whom already occupy positions of power and influence by the standards hereinbefore set forth, who see the problems that exist but have no incentive to act upon their ideals when they are acting alone and feeling overwhelmed by the sheer scope of the problem or problems at hand. Consider what I just said, as we won't be forced to sit around waiting for the plants to grow. The plants are already grown and seeking the light of the sun. Thus the greater worth of this offering is in our providing a banner to fly, a pavilion under which to gather, a Polestar on which to focus. Organization is key in knowing the true nature and potential of any offering, for it is not until we have assessed the ingredients and quantities in our possession that we can come to grasp the potential at our disposal. Always remember that our estimation of what is and isn't practical is less rooted in an objective logic than in our limited and biased grasp of comfort and convenience. And so to go basing our actions off of this frangible sense of logic that we treat like a fact of life is hardly more worthful than an admission of inconfidence. And honestly, if you aren't fully sold by and confident in these ideals, or any ideal, then don't go fighting for them. No one needs a half-assed soldier sauntering about at half speed and reliant on orders and promises to point a damn gun. If the cause ain't worth dying for, then get your pretty little body off the battlefield and go home. Impetus lives not within the flower but within the seed, and that which is not founded upon the passion of your heart will not reach to the heights of beauty.